Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on this edition of Business Daily. I'm Lee in Seoul. We have plenty of stories lined up for you today, so let's get started with a look at the day's highlights. Amid the ongoing government-led corporate restructuring drive, we take a look at how the Korean government is planning to use the supplementary budget to help boost the economy. The European Central Bank has decided to hold rates steady, saying that it's going to take some time to assess the full impact of Brexit. These stories and more coming right up. The Korean government unveiled the specifics of a multi-billion-dollar stimulus package, which includes a supplementary budget focused on cushioning the negative impact from the ongoing corporate restructuring, while also boosting job creation. And it plans to submit the extra budget bill to the National Assembly for approval next week. Ari Kim-min-ji has more.
Breathing life into ailing industries and boosting job creation. That's the core of the 11 trillion won, or roughly $9.7 billion supplementary budget laid out by Korea's finance ministry.
The government recognizes the difficulty in the job market, and there are concerns it could get worse due to the ongoing corporate restructuring drive. On top of that, there are external risks such as Brexit.
Amid an industry-wide slump, the nation's major shipbuilders are engaging in aggressive downsizing. An estimated 50,000 workers are expected to lose their jobs. Part of the budget will be used to increase the capital base of state banks, shouldering debt from foundering shipbuilders, as well as help the shipbuilders themselves win orders for government vessels. Some funds will also go to job creation in regions where the nation's shipyards are concentrated by way of job training and providing support for firms to retain their skilled workers. Creating customized jobs for young people, as well as helping those looking to launch their own startups, will also be some of the projects funded. Another chunk of the budget will be used to revitalize local economies by fostering the tourism sector and other industries in the region, as well as support for small and medium-sized companies. The central government will also look to expand local government finances so they can offer more help in education and other fields. The remainder will be used for public debt redemption, a move seen to maintain the country's fiscal soundness. The finance ministry expects the extra budget will help create some 68,000 jobs and lift the country's growth rate by 0.1 to 0.2 percentage point in 2016 and 2017. It says the overall impact will likely be greater when taking into account the total stimulus package worth 28 trillion won, or roughly $24.6 billion, which will come in the form of increased investments in state corporations and policy funds. But there are some doubts on how effective the stimulus package will be.
There will be positive effects, but not as much as the government expects. Of the 11 trillion won, not even half of it will be used to actually lift the economy. So it probably won't be able to prop up the growth rate significantly.
Experts say despite the extra budget, the government will likely fall short of its growth target of 2.8% this year, as it's focused on short-term economic recovery, rather than boosting the country's growth potential and fostering new growth engines. Kim Min-ji, Business Daily.
And on the back of these measures to support the ailing shipbuilding sector, we're seeing another warning sign ahead. Korean shipbuilders have seen their workload sink to a record 12-year low as of the end of last month. According to data compiled by Clarkson's Research Services on Friday, Korean shipbuilders saw their order backlog drop 20% from a year earlier to 25.1 million compensated gross tons, or CGT. The previous low was 24.1 million CGT in January 2004. Chinese and Japanese shipbuilders also saw order backlogs slide 11% and 14% respectively, but orders from domestic shipping companies seem to have cushioned the blow. Volkswagen has announced it will voluntarily suspend sales of cars caught up in a scandal involving false claims over emissions and noise levels. Audi Volkswagen Korea said Friday that the sales suspension will start on Monday and involve 34 models, including the Golf and Audi A6, which would cover a total of 79 submodels. Seoul's Environment Ministry is deciding whether to revoke sales certifications for the vehicles based on an investigation into allegations that the company submitted forged documents for test results. The German car maker is said to have made the decision due to confusion among its dealers and consumers. Audi Volkswagen Korea said its representatives will appear at a hearing on the scandal hosted by the Environment Ministry on Monday. Taking care of bank duties has become more than just convenient these days, as almost everything can be done on people's mobile devices. Seeing this change in trends, banks are slashing the number of automated teller machines nationwide, but some are not so happy about this change. Our Lee Ju-young tells us more.
Face-to-face interactions at banks are becoming less common as an increasing number of people turn to the internet to take care of their bank chores. According to the Bank of Korea, roughly 78 million online transactions are made on computers and smartphones on a daily basis. That's about $35 billion worth every day, up 9.3% on year.
A lot of places take cards, so I use less cash, and most transactions I can do on my smartphone.
This means not only are people going to the bank less often, they're also less inclined to use ATMs. In fact, banks have been cutting back on the number of these machines nationwide. According to data by 6 major commercial banks, including Shinhan, KB국민, and Uri, the number of ATMs dipped roughly 4% to 38,000 units last year. They say it costs about $9,000 for installation and $17,000 for maintenance each year for a single unit, all while the costs are increasingly exceeding the income from ATM fees. Over 170 more banking machines have been decommissioned from the start of the year to May. This may have reduced the strain on banks, but it's not welcome news for frequent ATM users.
It's hard for old people like us to use smartphones, so I think it's unfair to reduce the number of ATMs based on trends among younger people.
With internet-only banks set to start operations by the end of this year, experts say a larger cutback is soon to come. They add this will likely make things more difficult for the elderly and those who choose not to do their banking online. Lee Ju-young, Business Daily.
Samsung Electronics has filed a lawsuit against China's Huawei Technologies, accusing the Chinese phone maker of infringing on 6 Samsung patents. The lawsuit filed in Beijing's Intellectual Property Court about 2 weeks ago seeks damages worth roughly $24 million. It also called on the court to stop Huawei and another company based in Beijing from producing and selling Huawei's key models, such as Mate 8 and the Honor series phones. The latest lawsuit comes about 2 months after the Chinese phone maker sued the Korean tech giant over patent infringements, asking for compensation worth roughly $12 million. Market watchers say Samsung is expected to file a lawsuit against Huawei in the U.S. as well. Global smartwatch shipments have nosedived in the second quarter of this year, led by declines from industry leader Apple Watch. According to research firm IDC, global smartwatch shipments stood at 3.5 million units in the second quarter, a 32% decline from the 5.1 million units the year before. Apple still led the market with a 47% share, but its shipments plunged 55% from the year before to 1.6 million. Analysts say that sales of Apple Watch seem to have dropped as consumers are waiting for a next-generation Apple Watch with better features. And the research firm also said that the company lost momentum after last year's launch and strong holiday sales. Meanwhile, other top vendors, including Samsung and Lenovo, saw their shipments rise in the April to June period, with Samsung seeing a boost of 51% from a year ago. Eyes are on central banks in the coming days as they hold their first monetary policy meeting since the UK's Brexit decision. And our Eunice Kim joins us now to discuss this month's verdict from the European Central Bank. Hi, Eunice.
Hello.
So the verdict this time is no change.
That's right, no change. The European Central Bank kept its key interest rate steady, mind you, at negative rates, along with keeping its aggressive stimulus program that it introduced just 4 months ago, back in March. And the reason is the ECB is watching for hard and fast economic data that is still to come before it makes any moves. Take a look. The European Central Bank held its key interest rate steady on Thursday, leaving its deposit rate at minus 0.4%, its main refinancing rate at 0, while keeping its monthly asset purchase program at 80 billion euros. The Eurozone central banker said it was too early to determine the impact of Brexit on the bloc's fragile recovery.
We decided, as I said, that over the coming months, when we have more information, including new staff projections, we'll be in a better position to reassess the underlying macroeconomic conditions. And no attention was really given to discuss specific instruments at this point in time.
Draghi noted financial markets seem to have weathered Brexit's spike in uncertainty with encouraging resilience. He also addressed investor concern about the growing scarcity of bonds a central bank can buy by reassuring that the ECB would be able and committed to adapting its stimulus program to reach its objectives. Meanwhile, following her meeting with Germany's Prime Minister Angela Merkel, UK's Prime Minister Theresa May made her way to France. President François Hollande said while he understands Britain needs time to prepare for its divorce from the EU, he was clear it's preferable for France that the talks happen as soon as possible.
There cannot be discussions, pre-negotiations before the negotiation. But there can be preparation for this negotiation, and we understand your newly formed government needs that time. But I repeat, the sooner the better in the common interest.
Prime Minister May underlined the UK's desire to forge the closest economic ties possible with France, while reiterating that Article 50 won't be invoked this calendar year in a message to the markets.
I hope that we can all make the most of the next 6 months to prepare for these discussions in a constructive way so that we maximise the opportunities for both the UK and the EU.
So markets have certainly calmed, but when do we expect to see these impact reports that central bankers are so waiting for?
Well, not for another month or two, it seems. Now, since one update we did get within the past 24 hours is UK retail sales, which did fall by 0.9% in the month of June. That was the fastest pace seen since December. But of course, the referendum vote did happen at the end of June. So this dip being seen more as an effect of bad weather than the result of that Brexit decision. So the numbers for the month of July won't be expected until August. And even then, some say the ECB won't likely move until September when it has more economic data as well as a better idea of Britain's exit strategy.
Now, another upcoming uncertainty is in the United States. I mean, the presidential race there has emerged as a polarizing one. And just today, Donald Trump officially became the Republican presidential nominee.
You're absolutely right. Just hours ago, Donald Trump accepted the Republican Party's nomination to be the next president on behalf of the party. And Donald Trump, presenting himself as a leader to bring law and order back to the U.S., a country that's, of course, been even more divided after the recent flurry of officer-involved shootings and deaths. But he did also speak on trade. Specifically, he pointed to the so-called failures of his opponent, Hillary Clinton, and her husband and former president, Bill Clinton.
She supported NAFTA, and she supported China's entrance into the World Trade Organization, another one of her husband's colossal mistakes and disasters. She supported the job-killing trade deal with South Korea. She supported the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which will not only destroy our manufacturing, but it will make America subject to the rulings of foreign governments, and it's not going to happen.
Lots of passion there. In his stump speech at the Republican convention in Cleveland, Trump pledged to never sign any trade agreement that hurts American workers. Not only did he reiterate that he will renegotiate NAFTA's terms, he also voiced his opposition to what he called massive transactions like the NAFTA and the TPP, saying his government would only make deals with individual countries. Now, all in all, he is hitting a nerve in a part of America that has been struggling to make ends meet as he promises to bring jobs lost to free trade, or at least apparently so, back to America, as he positions himself as an advocate for the average American felt neglected by politics as usual for so long.
Now, this presidential race is turning out to be a very, very interesting one indeed.
That's right.
Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
And that wraps it up for today and this week. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll be back next week with more at the same time, same place for your Business Daily. Until then, goodbye.